Hello, listeners, and welcome to a brand new episode of Never Seen It. This is a podcast about movies that we haven't seen yet. My name is Betsy, and with me is Trent.
Hello, Betsy.
Trent, we are starting a brand new month. It's April, which means we are doing something we've talked about a number of times, and we're finally doing it. April is Sci-Fi Sunday here on Never Seen It. And we are beginning with a movie that I have seen, that Trent, you have never watched. From 1997, we are watching Contact.
Contact!
Is there any particular reason that you've never seen this? Because I've tried to get you to watch this for some time. I would say of the short list of movies that I want on this podcast, this has been amongst them.
There's not really a specific reason. I look at the movie and it's got some big names in it. I know Jodie Foster is in it. I know it's Matthew McConaughey as well. It's possible that the runtime kind of got to me because it's over 2 hours long, and I don't know. Sci-fi is a hit and miss for me. I really, really like good sci-fi, but sometimes I have a harder time to really take a chance on something that I don't really know anything about.
That being said, how much do you actually know about Contact specifically?
Not much. I mean, I remember this movie being pretty damn big back in the 90s. They advertised the hell out of it. It's after a movie like Independence Day, but that movie is more of an action movie. I don't think this is. So maybe this is more, I don't know, practical sci-fi, scientific sci-fi. I don't really know.
I'll go ahead and tell you, this one is definitely the most accurate to science that you will probably have seen to date, except for maybe Interstellar, where Christopher Nolan was really specific about he wanted the science to be right.
Yeah.
Contact
is close enough.
Contact is the movie that precedes that in that element. They really wanted to get the science right to the degree that this is actually based on work by Carl Sagan.
Oh.
So he was...
I think I did know
you
that.
You probably did. Yeah. He was heavily involved in this project. This is based on a book that he wrote. So it's all about real science and space travel and the universe as he discovered it, as he saw it.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, I mean, as far as plot stuff, I feel like the beginning of this movie is, hey, we got a signal, finally. We have instruments pointed everywhere into space and sending out signals to try to get anybody to respond to us, any, other entity out in the universe. And finally, they're getting something back. So I guess this is that.
Are you familiar with Carl Sagan's gold record? Do you know about this?
I am, yes. There is like a whole bunch of encoded stuff on an analog record, but it's made of gold. It's got music. It's got coordinates. It's got just a whole lot of information that would be relevant to any extraterrestrials who could figure out how to play the damn thing.
It's a disc that basically says, we are humanity.
Yeah, like this is everything that we are about. Yeah.
Universal message in case there's anybody out there.
Isn't there like a Bob Dylan song on it or something? Or something
Possibly.
Very similar to that, or the Beatles?
It's a whole lot of random stuff, like the DNA sequences on there for humans, diagrams, a little bit of history. They covered a lot of ground. I think most of your knowledge of what's on it probably comes from that episode of Drunk History they did on Carl Sagan.
Probably.
Because it's Carl Sagan and his wife. They met and fell in love on that project. And then they got married. And so they're both involved in this movie because they kind of got to this place scientifically together.
Yeah, and a guy like Neil deGrasse Tyson is a guy that we like and respect. He gets a little snarky online sometimes, but we actually saw a talk of his. He came to our town years and years ago, and he's a really interesting guy just to listen to.
So
he's one of these disciples.
Another one of these.
Yeah, he's another one of these disciples of Carl Sagan.
Yeah, he was begotten by the science of Carl Sagan.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that because that does come up in this movie. So that's the kind of movie this is. I don't think I'm really giving you anything that's in the spoiler territory because we have not touched on the plot at all.
I'm sure not.
And you are just going to go into this pretty blind, and that's okay. But I have been curious for years what you would think of this movie, so we're finally going to find out the answer to that question. So we're going to go and watch Contact, and we will be right back. And we're back. Trent, you have finally seen Contact.
Yep.
An easy movie, an uncomplicated movie that asks no complicated questions about who we are and our place in the universe.
Yeah, a great and easy topic for us to cover at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night when we're recording this.
Absolutely. So maybe I won't ask what you thought, but rather, how do you feel?
I like that. My initial reaction here is that I'm really glad that it treats kind of everybody with respect in a way.
There's kind of equal sides here because obviously the two major subjects are science versus faith, but it requires just as much faith in this movie at different elements.
Yeah.
That as it does science. Like, it's two sides of the coin.
Yeah, you can't really, I mean, for lack of a better phrase, reach for the stars unless you have some kind of faith that you will accomplish your goal and you trust your own mind, you trust the minds of other people around you who are helping you. All of that comes with at least a little bit of faith, but not necessarily a religious faith or a spiritual faith.
It's a certain trust that is required, interpreting it that way.
Right.
A logical faith in that way.
Yeah.
And of course, the end of the movie, it's if you have faith in Ellie, do you believe that she went through something? Because she believes it. Like, she is a person of science who cannot explain what happened to her.
Totally.
But she fully believes it because she has faith in her own brain and her own experience and what she went through.
There are a lot of really, really big questions here, and the answer to a lot of these questions is, I don't know. I honestly don't know if what I saw was actually real. I can't interpret all of the things that were thrown at me in those 18 hours. All you can do at that point is speculate and try to figure it out and talk with other people and try to extrapolate as much as you can, which is the same thing that fucking religion does for the past, thousands of years. Huge swaths of people try to interpret their understanding of the Word of God. In some ways, it's the same thing that happens in the scientific community. You have to take these ideas that are presented to you in a way that you're trying to understand them, but there is a process, there is a scientific method on how to get to a conclusion. And not every scientific theory has a conclusion that is satisfactory.
So many still end up with, I don't know.
Exactly.
Like, they display it throughout this movie of, the news people, the news crew outside the building saying it's been 2 whole weeks and we still don't know. It's like, yeah, it's fucking science. Remember in 2020 when the science was unfolding about COVID and people were like, well, this is ridiculous. They don't know.
Why don't you know everything yet?
It's like you are watching the scientific process in real time.
Yeah.
We're 5 years removed and we finally have some answers. We still don't have all the answers. We don't know.
Most scientific studies all happen in a dark room somewhere with a bunch of fucking nerds who are just thinking of things and then trying them out, thinking of things and then trying them out. Well, you're not supposed to see the sausage get made in that way. And honestly, today, of all days, I watched the movie Contagion. Don't ask me why I did that. I felt like I needed to have some kind of trauma in my day.
Sick, self-destructive, and a voice that you listen to.
But in that same movie, it's the same thing. Why isn't there a vaccine? Why isn't there a cure? Why don't you know more? Well, there's a whole lot of things that we gotta go through, guys. I don't have time to be sitting here and talking with you journalists and you government people. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
And both in that movie and in Contact.
And in real life.
And in real life, they represent really well the different dynamics that you have. You have the people who hear something like this, like, we have gotten a signal from outer space. And you understand in that moment why she tells the world, why Ellie goes out and says, we've got a signal, because she's about to have her funding cut. She has to basically, in no world would she have done this until she has all the answers, except that she's got months before they pull the plug, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's not even a matter of funding. In that particular case, the government is basically pulling their lease on their satellite time. So like you said, she goes out there, makes it public because in her mind, this is one of the biggest scientific discoveries of all time. But looking at it from afar, looking at it from a layman's point of view, this is nothing. This is, the shit that you just get, it's background noise of something. Somebody left their TV on and it's picking up Leave It to Beaver.
But the reaction that the world has to this announcement, you've got the ultra-religious faction where there's even different groups. There's different subgroups within that. There's the end of days cult religious people.
Yep.
There's the coalition of, moral values or whatever they call it. The Rob Lowe character where he's just like, we're not just going to rush out there and make rash decisions.
We don't even know if these aliens believe in God.
What a thing to say. But anyhow, that's a whole conversation.
Especially from Rob Lowe.
Right. Then you've got all the scientists who are saying, well, it's my discovery because I was, I'm smarter and better and in a better position to take the credit, even though I've been poo-pooing these scientists for literally their entire careers because I suddenly see an opportunity to make myself feel important. I'm going to claim the discovery.
Because this person, we're talking about the Tom Skerritt character.
The Tom Skerritt character.
He is better at the political side of it.
That's the other piece of this puzzle is the politics of it.
Yes.
How the government immediately says, well, I've never heard of a better argument for public domain or whatever he says.
Eminent domain.
Eminent domain
Yes.
than this. You're using government equipment, government satellites. So now it is a government contract and we're putting the fucking padlocks on the doors. This is top secret moving forward. We're going to take over. You don't need to be involved anymore.
Yeah, I'm reminded of when in the movie Contagion, because I literally just saw that today, the government, when they're trying to push this along, the vaccine along, they say, well, why can't you just put it in the water supply just like fluoride so that everybody can get it at the same time and everybody's vaccinated? That's not how vaccines work. You can't just drink it.
That's somebody who is in politics, not a scientist.
Yeah, they're looking for a quick fix. They're looking for, honestly, the simplest solution. It's the whole Occam's razor thing.
That they bring up many times in Contact.
Yeah, and I'm sure this movie probably popularized that theory more than any other piece of fiction. But you're right, this movie does position all of these different groups of people, basically all going against the Jodie Foster character, even though in her mind, she's doing everything right. She's following all the steps. She's consulting all the people. She is ruling out what it isn't before you determine what it is. That is the way you should do things. But because you invite so much extra scrutiny, because this does affect a whole lot more than just you and your little band of nerds.
It affects the entirety of the human race.
Yeah.
And so when they confirm it is a machine meant to send a human being somehow, we don't know exactly what it does until we use it, until we build this machine.
That's after we find out what the hell that they're sent us. But first, it's just this weird audio signal. Then they expand it out to say, it's a video thing. There's a fucking 2-dimensional thing. Actually, it's a 3-dimensional set of instructions.
There's 10,000 pages of coded documents.
Yeah.
But once they finally take that time and they invest in the science, they go after it hard and figure out how to crack this code, it reveals that it is a device that will send a human somewhere. And they all just kind of assume, they don't really know what it is. They have their hypotheses. But once they determine there is an image of a single human being, a human form within this machine, suddenly all the hands go flying up and they say, well, I want to go. I want to go. Because now we've confirmed something we didn't know before. And now it's going farther and further than we've ever been. And I want to be the first one. I want to be the pioneer. It's about me, 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 me. Like, put me to the front of the line. All of the skepticism suddenly washes away as soon as the science comes through and proves a little bit more. If they prove just a little bit more fact, they stop being so political and so skeptical and go, oh, well, now it's science. Now I know what this document is. Now I know how this machine is designed and what it's supposed to do. We just don't know how it's going to do it.
The next question is, what's next? What happens when you turn that on and you follow all the steps to a T, and you don't have religious fanatics going up there, fuck you, Jake Busey, and blowing the shit up? And from there, that's where it all kind of becomes theoretical. You could surmise based on what the energy signatures are and what the schematics tell you what this machine is going to do, but until you go through the entire process, you have no idea. Because in theory, yes, this little pod, when it drops into the bucket, as it were, in theory, the thing is going to propel you out into space because there's so much energy flowing through it. And other people might say, well, once you drop it, it's just going to keep on dropping because, well, I did the calculations and there's no way in hell that this is going to do anything other than just drop in the ocean.
That's science for you. It's all theory and hypotheses
and until you
testing.
actually experiment and do the thing, you have no idea what's going to happen. Mainly because, hey, you weren't the one who designed the thing.
So I know we're jumping right to the end of the movie, but this is the burning question that I always have when I watch this movie. So she ends up getting dropped in the machine, and from their perspective, drops right through. Okay? She has this absolutely mind-altering experience where she travels the universe in a way that cannot be documented or explained. Like, she literally is floating there looking at a cosmic event that is the most incredible, beautiful thing that she literally cannot describe. She says they should have sent a poet.
Yeah, I really like that line.
To be able to describe what it is I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And so she had nearly a full day of experiences that she cannot prove to anybody. But they have built this giant machine, and they don't in the movie address if they ever try this again. Like, is this machine literally $500 billion to build it?
A one-time thing?
And it's a one and done. Like, honest to God, that's the one element of this movie that I need more science on. I need to understand why the aliens would send this message to the human race, say, we're giving you a little key, a little glimpse into, you are not alone in the universe. They are just confirming it, but it's up to you to figure out the rest. And no other human being gets to have this experience, and the machine never works again.
Well, they don't say that.
That's the stuff they don't say, and I'm like, but why not? Why does it not get addressed in this movie? That bothers me to no end. And I know it's because it's that whole thing of you have to have faith. You have to just believe her, and you have to be on her side, and that's the be-all, end-all. Otherwise, they wouldn't have all of these conferences and congressional hearings and, trying to figure out what the truth is and bringing up Occam's razor and saying, is it more likely that you went on this space adventure, or is it the most elaborate hoax in human history? And James Woods, the second he is on this committee, goes straight to that most cynical, political, angriest part of humanity. And they kind of...
Just like a James Woods would.
They kind of sprinkled that attitude with different characters throughout this movie, too, where it's just, you don't have any faith. You just assume that clearly someone was taking advantage of something, that clearly it was a hoax, that clearly, because I am not a man of science, I'm a man of logic, of my own design. And my design says, I don't believe that you fell through a wormhole and went across the universe. What I believe is this was a big fucking hoax. That guy wanted to go out with a bang, and you were an unwilling participant in his crazy, basically.
So what's your question, Betsy?
My question is, what do you think? Why would they not do this again? Or did they do it again? Like, it just bothers me that it's not addressed in the movie. Or if you're not sure how to answer that question, Trent, I guess if you were put in the position that this guy is, where would you fall on this spectrum? I feel like you are a really rational guy who believes things when he's got the facts. I know you. You're very much a fact gatherer before you make your conclusive decision.
I am very much in the Jodie Foster camp for the most part. I consider myself to be an atheist. I'm a man of science. I believe the test results when I see them, and I go on faith that these scientists and these doctors and whoever else who have already figured out how to test for things. I'm kind of talking more like, hey, medical stuff and research type stuff. But I go on faith that these people have the best intentions and they're not trying to pull the wool over my eyes.
So in the theoretical world that we receive a signal from space, we interpret the data that is sent back to us. Let's say I touched on it at the beginning in the intro. The gold record that we launched out into the universe in the 1970s, some alien race gets it, sends a signal back to us, and we get all this data and it says build a machine, and we say okay, and we build the machine, and we use the machine. But from our perspective, all we see the machine do, the very highly time-consuming, expensive machine, it drops something into a net. Like, that is what you see. And then you have this woman who says she spent 18 hours traveling through wormholes. Like, where is your brain gonna go in a scenario like that?
Well, I would say, if all things being equal, that whoever we sent up there is a trustworthy person and they are, respected in their field, and there would be no reason for her to lie, then yeah, I would be inclined to believe her.
Even though she doesn't have any proof.
Yes.
You'd still be like, okay, well, I don't know why she would lie about it. So I guess I agree with her.
Because you immediately take her, I'm talking about the movie, you immediately take her into a public congressional hearing that is tasked to getting to the bottom of whatever this thing is.
And those people love to just go up there and discredit everything they can.
They're up there fucking grandstanding because they have another motive. Because
they always make it about them.
This particular thing that they are talking about is just what is on the agenda for this week. Essentially, politicians always have a fucking axe to grind or another agenda. What should have happened in this case is Jodie Foster's character immediately starts to meet with all of the fucking scientists that she was working with before and all of the people who were helping out with this project in the interim. Get all of those smart people together and then figure it out, and then, and only then, do you come out with a public report saying, this is what we were able to determine based on the data that we got, and just talking amongst each other.
Wait a second. Are you telling me they should have used the scientific method?
What I'm telling you is that the public and fucking politicians are panicky and untrustworthy. That's what I'm saying.
And fickle, especially as it pertains to, we spent a lot of money on this and we would like to know where the money went.
Well, not only where the money went, they know where the money went, but we need to have whatever your report is now, and it needs to be able to be sent out to the public to justify the cost.
Yeah, the American people need to know.
The world people need to know.
Well, as with most movies, it's from a very America-centric point of view.
Not to the Japanese perspective, because those guys...
They're the real heroes in this movie. As you said, the country full of atheists who are at the forefront of science.
Leave it to a country full of atheists to say, fuck all those motherfuckers that have all these fucking religions over here. No, we're going to do our own shit over here and see if we can figure it out.
There's a reason they've invested time and money in technology, and they're leading the world in it because they care about the science.
In a lot of different areas, not just, science and technology, it is also health as well.
Yeah, all things, though, that are made less complicated when you don't have so many outside competing voices getting in the way of advancement.
Yeah, and honestly, the original sin here, if you want to call it that, is just making this public from the get-go. Once they have this audio coming through, they get a lot more attention, and it's right when they're starting to figure things out. And if it wasn't for James Woods going in there and throwing his weight around, we wouldn't have all these problems.
That's right. We blame all of our problems on James Woods.
I mean, okay.
But there's much more conversation to be had about Contact. But first, we need to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor, and we will be right back.
This season, give yourself the gift you've always wanted. It's not a new car, and certainly not diamond jewelry. It's premium podcasts from the industry's leading connoisseurs of conversation. For only $5 a month, you will receive the most privileged access to their entire catalog. Patreon.com/NeverSeenItPod. Only the best for the discerning listener.
Let's talk about the actors in this movie. So our star of the film is Jodie Foster. And I was thinking about it. I don't think you've spent a whole lot of time on her career.
Definitely not.
So what did you think of her in this film?
Well, I kind of said it as you were getting ready to go upstairs and get ready to start recording. I said, that Jodie Foster, she's a good actress.
She already had 2 Oscars by the time this movie came out.
But did not get nominated. There was only one nomination from the Academy for this movie, and it was for the sound. Which, hey, it was Skywalker Sound who did everything here, so they always do quality work. But man, I would say this is well before the Academy really got their head out of their ass and started to recognize sci-fi in a bigger way.
Or just genre movies in general.
Totally. Obviously, this is before they expanded the category. It's a full decade before they did that.
Yeah, my understanding about this movie is audiences liked it, but it's not exactly like a critical darling. It's not a movie. It wasn't wildly successful. The people who saw it liked it, but it's also pretty heady sci-fi when you're just trying to explain to them what it is.
When all of the other movies that are successful, that are in this vein, the sci-fi movies that you're used to, and Independence Day for one, that's a big action movie, and you're going to have, a big popcorn flick.
People would rather have the aliens be like invading the planet and there's shit blowing up and somebody gets to be heroic, as opposed to one woman who feels alone in the universe, seeking out her own answers to discover that she is not in fact alone, using real science by real scientists. To the degree that Jodie Foster had to request cue cards. Like when it got into the real scientific mumbo jumbo, she was struggling. She has never, I think, before or since this movie, asked for cue cards to be able to get her lines right because she cares about doing it right.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
There's a certain degree to which you just need help because this is some real science. This is a lot of words and they're a lot of big words. And that is hard for any actor, let alone when you are doing, a really long movie about science. And it's not just, we invented some words and we're going to explain it away. We're going to use the real theory, and we're going to use scientific methods to come up with the diagrams and how we think that aliens would contact us and the fundamental scientific language they would use to do it.
And it's not just the contact either. It is giving the emotion that a scientist in this position would be having at this discovery. Think about when she's out in the field and she gets the signal for the first time. She gets on the radio, she's yelling at her comrades, getting into the car and speeding to the lab to try to get more data. It's what a scientist would do.
We finally got something. It's been 5 years. Yeah. Dear God, please tell me that thing has been recording.
This thing is the thing that I have been working towards basically my entire life. And finally, I'm getting something. Of course, you're going to be super excited, but at the same time, you still have to be a scientist, not just a little girl with her ham radio. No, you got sophisticated equipment. You got really smart guys back at the lab that you can trust, that they understand what you are saying. You can talk to them in a language that only they will understand. When you get government types coming in there, you have to try to dumb it down. You have to be political, which is what the Tom Skerritt character is really representing here. He's the go-between the real scientists who are doing the real work and the politics of it, who can retranslate what Jodie Foster's saying to communicate to James Woods and eventually Bill Clinton, the fucking president.
I also think they're trying to maybe not so subtly say, well, she's the irrational woman, and he is the like hardened male scientist. And so he's a better fit for this because he understands the game, and she gets too passionate and too loud.
Yeah, there's too much emotion in it.
She rubs people the wrong way. And these two have a history. Like, she actually studied under this guy when she was like getting her doctorate or whatever it was. And he has basically gone out of his way in the scientific community to say she is going to throw her career away. She's too hard to work with, and she's got some crazy ideas, and she is wasting her own fucking time, and I have to save her from herself.
Well, and in a way, at the early part of the movie, when they're in Puerto Rico at the GoldenEye dish, by the way, Tom Skerritt is there basically telling everybody around him that, well, all of this other research that isn't going directly towards results that taxpayers can recognize and see with their own eyes, unless whatever science is going on here is going towards that, then those scientific endeavors are worthless. Which is to say, all of Jodie Foster's research, her entire life of work, is completely worthless because she's got nothing to show for it yet.
The average American doesn't give a fuck about the discovery of aliens if you can't actually guarantee you'll ever find anything.
Bring one out on stage and then I can look at it.
That is what it takes.
That is honestly what it would take.
And even then, some people will be like, well, that's a hoax. It's all like cameras and digital something.
That's AI.
AI. Yeah, that's seriously. Even if you showed them, some people would not believe it. But he also, later on in the movie, like, he just keeps showing up and kind of fucking things up for her. When she makes this discovery and they're doing a big press conference at the White House, she's supposed to go up because she discovered it. She's the leader of the project. And Angela Bassett gets up there and says, and now we're going to hear from the director of the project, Tom Skerritt. When they determine, oh, it is a vessel for a human, and now he suddenly sees, I've got a chance to do some real science. His science brain takes over.
Yeah, he resigns his post.
He gives up the politics.
Yeah, so that he can qualify to go up there.
And when they have the hearings, they have a committee that's going to decide who gets to go. When it's her turn, Matthew McConaughey asks pointedly, do you believe in God? Because he knows what the American people will expect for her to answer. And
well, it's not even the American people, it's everybody.
The global populace, sure.
Yes, yes.
Most people believe in God in some version or another.
That is true.
And her honest answer is, I don't have an answer to that question. And she just says basically no without saying no.
Yeah, because as a scientist, I believe in these scientific methods. I have to be evidence-based, and so far I haven't seen the evidence of an all-powerful being in whatever capacity that you want to apply to it. So she says no.
And then Tom Skerritt immediately goes like after her, and he hears what she said, and he just spins the hell out of it, and he says, blah, 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 and what God has given us.
Exactly.
He just throws it in there.
He turns into this all-American boy that the country and possibly parts of the world can just get behind because, by golly, that's the kind of person that we want to go and meet the aliens.
I'm so glad the middle-aged white man is getting everything he's ever dreamed of.
Because he knows.
I'm so happy
because
for him.
He knows how to politic it.
It wouldn't be so bad if he was at least like a redeemable guy where she was getting the short end of the stick, but he actually was kind of like, he was brutal, but had a purpose behind it.
Here's the deal.
Sometimes he just rubs it in her face.
So at the very end, before he goes up there and he's doing his little song and dance in front of the TV cameras.
We call the dummy Elmer. Aren't we funny?
But he admits to her, basically, I wish that we didn't live in a world that was so cynical. I wish we could live in the world where you could just be honest, and that is the most important thing. That is the thing that will get you the most respect. But no, we don't live in that world, and I played it to a T, and I won.
Exactly. He has to go out of his way to say, you know what? It would be nice if things were fair. But things are not fair, and I'm better than you.
I took advantage because I'm better at this portion of life, I guess, than you are.
Yeah, he didn't have to do that. It just paints him as such a dick. He's
Yeah.
such a dick. And she even tries to save his ass because she's the one who notices Jake Busey is not supposed to be there when they're doing the test.
Yeah, she's not necessarily trying to save him. She's trying to save the project. That's everything.
Fair enough. She's in it for the science. And she knows that guy is up to no good because she has seen him time and time again.
Yeah.
You don't forget a face like Jake Busey's face.
Of course not. And that hair, good God.
He's a lot in this movie. And this was the first thing I ever saw him in, by the way. He has haunted my dreams since the 90s.
Yeah, because you hadn't seen Starship Troopers yet.
I had not, but came out the same year, didn't it? But through all of this, bringing it back to Jodie Foster, she demonstrates the frustration of being asked, do you believe in God, in what she thinks is an irrelevant question in that setting. And she knows what that answer will do to her chances. She is always fighting for what she wants. She's like in the scene where she's trying to get funding, private funding from this company.
Right.
And she makes a point of telling them, oh, let's make a flying machine that goes in the air. That sounds pretty fucking crazy too, doesn't it? Give me the money. This is what we're here for. This is science. And then at the end of the movie, when she goes on this journey and she's being violently shaken and she is kind of terrified because she's the only one experiencing it, and she's going through wormholes, and then she passes out, and then she is confronted by the manifestation of her own father who died when she was 9. And she's crying, and she is emotional, and she gets angry in this movie. She does the full range. And she's great in this movie, like truly great. So I'm glad you acknowledged that and you could see it for yourself.
Totally. And in this era of cinema, in the 90s in particular, when CG is in its infancy, where Jodie Foster has no idea what she is looking at.
She had never done blue screen before. This was her first movie with that experience.
And we talked about it in one of our Patreon shows when we covered the Jurassic Park trilogy, the first one. Those actors are looking up at nothing. But the director here has to explain to them, you are looking at this majestic creature. You have never seen a dinosaur. It is the most awe-inspiring thing that you could possibly think of. And they're looking at nothing. It's nothing. So that right there is a testament to an actor that you can implant into your brain the beauty and wonder of going through a wormhole and transmitting your body through space and time.
And meanwhile, a dinosaur, if I say dinosaur, your brain flashes on an image.
Sure.
In this is way harder. It's like the most beautiful cosmic event your brain can imagine. That's harder to pinpoint. That's a little harder to manifest.
I suppose. But then again, we talked about Carl Sagan. I imagine Carl Sagan was on set here trying to explain what it could look like, not necessarily what it would look like.
Because we don't know what it would look like. We have ideas of what it could look like.
I mean, sure, we had satellite imagery. We've had telescopic imagery of some of these things. So you could at least give her a semblance of an idea, at the very least.
And of course, she represents the science of this movie. From beginning to end, her thing is science. But we counter this with another actor who is representing faith, and that is Matthew McConaughey. And so this is 1997, where he's still kind of getting famous. He's really not that famous, though, when this movie comes out.
No, he didn't really break out and just be the romantic comedy, like beefcake guy. That was really the box office draw in the late 90s and 2000s.
And I would argue that this movie, being earlier in his career before that persona kind of haunted him for a little while, is very different. This is a very different kind of movie for Matthew McConaughey, where he is playing a man who he describes himself as a man of the cloth without the cloth. He went to school and got a master's in divinity, and he went to seminary, but then he dropped out. And now he spends his days as a religious advisor, and he has written books about how technology isn't making us happier, and we should examine our lives as it pertains to religion because of this. So he's a really interesting foil to the scientist, but of course they throw in the fact that these two have attraction because it's the opposites attract thing.
To a point, yeah, but it's still Matthew McConaughey. And I feel like, for a movie made in 1997, you maybe need to attract some other folks. I have no idea if this is actually in the book version of this or if it was a contrivance for the movie. I don't really know. I kind of don't care because it's such a minor part of the movie. Yeah, they hook up once and then he keeps on showing up at her events. That's it.
So you don't really care about the character, but what do you think of him in it?
I think he's really good. And I appreciate the fact that they allow him to have an open mind about a lot of things. Like you said, he is not in any kind of religion. He's not following any kind of dogma. It is just, he is kind of a humanist in some fashion, where he's examining what technology is doing to humans, the advancement of technology, and whether or not humans should continue on these paths. And I think, thinking about it in 1997, we're already talking about the internet and online shopping and not going to malls anymore and just being very disconnected from your fellow man. And in 1997, almost 30 years ago, how far we have gone down that kind of negative road.
It is a really interesting element of the film because you and I watching this in 2025, we know what social media has done to make people feel more isolated. Like, you're so exposed to all of these other humans and the way they live that it actually more negatively impacts your feelings of self-worth and place in the universe. And why am I so unsuccessful?
And marry that with the technology of having everything on your phone.
24/7, baby.
24 hours a day, you have access to all of the world's information and all of the people who have chosen to be on these services. And again, you are as isolated as you've ever been. Even though you have all the connections in the world, it's not the same as what it used to be. So I think his character is the one that I'm examining the most, and it's what he's talking about that is most fascinating to me, because we don't really examine that much of ourselves much anymore. Yeah, there are people who are examining the evils of social media and the evils of your phones in your pocket and everything like that, but I don't think that people are really examining what it is doing to themselves. I don't think individual people are doing it. I feel like back when the internet was very, very new, like I remember when I was a kid and I was told, don't stay on the internet for so long. Don't talk to strangers on the internet. Don't do this. Don't
what
do
you
that.
see on the internet.
Well, it's all of the things that they tell us about any new technology. Don't watch the TV for longer than whatever time it's going to rot your brain. Don't play video games for more than however many minutes per day it's going to rot your brain. Don't look at your cell phone and doom scroll for 8 hours a day because it's going to rot your brain. Well, maybe our brain is fucking rotting with all of this technology. Think about that.
And I attribute the fact that they include that as an element of his character in 1997 is part of that. We are basing it on real science. We are speculating where technology is going, where we're going to be in X number of years. And that's why they're able to basically say in 1997 what we're feeling in 2025 about technology, because real scientists saw it coming and we were like, that's just silly. Flying machines that will take us around the world. That's just crazy.
Yeah, basically what they're saying here without saying it is technology makes the world that much smaller, and it's our world. And in this case, technology is making the world that much smaller, making the galaxy that much smaller so that you can reach out to a distant world and have contact with other people. So again, technology making your life smaller.
And there's a really cynical perspective the movie could have taken where he would just come out and say, all science is bad. You all need God. It's the only solution. And, kind of taking advantage of people in need. They could easily make this movie that way. 100%. Matthew McConaughey in this movie could be a villain. Like, he could just be another voice that is an antagonist to Jodie Foster. But they have this connection, they have this spark, and because they believe each other, they're the perfect symbiotic relationship that more people in the world should be accepting of. Like, these two
Totally.
things can and should coexist. It's okay if you're a person of science who doesn't believe in God. It's okay if you're someone who believes in God and is skeptical of science. But you should be open to the conversation of why. Why do you feel that way? Because I think they both have good points. In that one conversation when they reconnect in DC after 5 years, she says, I think this. And he goes, okay, good point. And then he asks another question, okay, you love your father? You loved him? Prove it.
Yeah.
And she can't prove it any more than, she confronts him about why she doesn't think God exists. And I don't know, it's just a really good scene where they manage to kind of outsmart each other on their own respective topics.
Yeah, I think the important thing here is having the conversation and be willing to have said conversation. Be willing to listen to somebody that you do not necessarily agree with and have the ability to articulate your position in a way that isn't insulting. That's really where I'm coming from here, where I will listen to anybody's argument about almost anything when it comes to, politics or art or religion or pretty much anything. I've got a really open mind, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to take everything that you say to heart. I'm just going to listen to what you have to say is number one. But number two is also understanding that most people come by their opinions from an honest place. Not everybody who disagrees with your position on things come to that conclusion through bad means. In some cases, yes, they are misinformed, but in most cases, you just have a different life experience, and you should embrace other people that are not like you.
And that third element of politics is kind of represented by James Woods, I would say, more than anybody. He's the national security advisor, and his immediate thing is, what if they're telling us to build a doomsday machine? What if they open a gate, we build this machine, and it opens a portal, and then they invade us? That's where his brain immediately goes.
Well, yeah.
He goes to the bad place. He goes to they can't possibly be good aliens.
Yeah,
they're all out to get us.
You can't just expect that these aliens who are showing as Hitler imagery are going to be benevolent.
But then there's a perfectly logical reason. Like, there's kind of a jarring moment in the movie where you went, what the fuck? And that's what everybody's reaction to that part of the movie is.
But then they explain, hey guys, this was the first and biggest television broadcast ever done up to this point in world history.
The signal that was sent out the first and loudest was Adolf Hitler opening the Olympic Games.
Right.
And it took that long for the signal to go to this alien species and then bounce back at us with new information included. Basically them saying, we got your message, and then reply all.
Yeah. Honestly, one of the first things that I wrote down in my notes was, quote unquote, as far as aliens are concerned, humans have only existed as long as radio waves have.
And these aliens were far enough that they didn't get the radio waves, they got the TV waves. And they actually do take that into account in the book, where doing the math of how long it would take those waves to get to the aliens and then get back to us, it should have arrived in 1988. So
right.
We're a little off of the timeline in the movie version, but it's easier to do with the technology in 1997 than to try to make a movie about that technology in 1998. Because even in that 9-year span, because even in this movie, they're doing like video calls through the internet.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this was the first time, or one of the first times, that was depicted in a movie. Now it's so old hat that nobody thinks twice about it.
A fucking live stream of a video call. Like, what?
To Australia.
Right.
They call their friends in Australia, or they got a big satellite and they're calling the Mir space station. Do you remember the Mir?
I do.
That's not even a thing anymore, right?
It was the Russians.
I'm not crazy. That's gone, right? It's just the International Space Station?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I'm like, I haven't heard Mir in so long that I'm pretty sure it's because it's not a thing. But let's talk about some of those other things in this movie, like some of the science, some of the way the movie looks. What did you think about the way they interpreted her going through the wormhole?
I think that was kind of brilliant in a way that, you know what? Nobody fucking knows. Nobody knows. Wormholes are real, but no one's ever, certainly gone through one. So how do you interpret that? There are precious few depictions of going through a wormhole in cinema. This is probably one of the first. So as we were kind of going through it, you were mentioning, okay, watch her face as she goes through it. And they're like projecting images of her own face in different ages and different expressions. And at some point there are like, I don't even know how you say it. It's like her face is separating from her head and she's saying things that she's going to say in about, 5 seconds. So it is kind of weirdly 90s animation style if I want to be weird about it, but it's kind of the way it was.
But it's also, how do you interpret it?
Yeah.
You can interpret it any way you want within a theoretical. You have some ideas. What we do know is nobody can just drop through a black hole or a wormhole because you would be stretched to infinity. Your physical form couldn't survive the journey.
Sure.
And then, of course, even if you did manage to travel through it, there's the problem of time, because time on Earth and time in space is very different.
Yeah, if Interstellar taught us nothing, it is that time is very relative, especially when you talk about black holes and wormholes in space.
It's very curious.
Gravity and all that shit.
It's very curious that Matthew McConaughey is in both of these movies.
Never thought about
Go
that.
figure.
I never thought about that. But honestly, I kind of thought that was going to rear its head later where, yes, she was gone for this amount of time because her physical form was going to be whisked up to this star, this other place, and then come back. So I think they said the round trip, if she were to actually do that, would be the equivalent of about 50 Earth years, but she would be in the pod for, I don't know how many years. I don't think they said.
They said 4 years equals 50 years.
Something like that.
So 4 years to you out in space would be 50 years on planet Earth.
Right. And I have no idea how they accounted for how the hell is she going to survive this trip if it's a 4-year trip up. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, they had like all these supplies. They show her getting ready where there's food and there's equipment and there's all these things, but they don't show you where in this pod it is.
No, they don't.
They just make sure to show you they're sending her with a suicide pill. Because you don't know what's going to happen. It might go very badly.
Right. But I do enjoy how they're showing her things in the pod and it's not coming through on the video. And finally, when she gets there, I'm not a huge Star Trek guy. I never have been. But basically what she's in is a holodeck where it is being projected all around her. She can't interact with anything, but she is being shown what these quote unquote aliens want to show her. So by her estimation, they were able to download her memories, her thoughts, her dreams, everything in her brain. So they project this image of what her dad looked like when he died. And they say this seemed like the easiest way to get it across to you, what we're trying to show you. So let's show you a depiction of your own father on a very relaxing beach surrounded by stars, because that's what she likes.
Also, did you notice that was her drawing of Pensacola?
No. Oh, shit. No, I never got that.
Yeah, as he's approaching, there are 3 palm trees in that very distinct formation that she drew.
Oh, man, that's
and that
cool.
curve of the water. So this is a very deep memory for her. This
Honestly,
is a very big moment.
The thing that I was thinking of is, hey, that's just like Sandra Bullock washing up on a beach when she comes out from space.
She's also kind of floating as she descends to the beach.
Yes, I had the same thought. Like I said, please don't make the same pose that they make in that other movie.
When she looks like a baby.
When she looks
floating.
like a baby. Yep. Honestly, I thought that's what they were going to do, but they didn't go there, thankfully.
No, this one gets more at the emotional core, but then quickly says, her logical brain takes over and says, you're not real. And they go, bingo, you figured it out. We're just trying to not make your brain melt. Like, we're trying to ease you into this a little bit.
Right. And I like how they're kind of depicting her saying, I have just so many questions. I am the scientific person. They sent me for a reason. So I'm expecting some answers here. But very quickly she figures out, I'm not going to get anything out of you, am I?
Because even they don't know. Like they say, did you build this? We didn't build it. It was here. This other alien race showed us. We don't know who they were. It was just there.
Yeah.
And now we show other people, and that's how this works. We all get a little taste.
Betsy, speaking of taste, I think I need to take a bit of a detour here into video game land.
Oh boy, all right.
You've heard of the video game series Mass Effect.
I have seen you play this game, yes.
Not only is Mass Effect very much based on a whole lot of Star Trek, but I had no idea that they took so much from Contact. Holy shit.
Really?
Yeah. So the things that they fly into in order to traverse outer space, that kind of cylindrical thing that is spinning around.
Sure, the 6-ringed machine.
It is what they call a mass relay. It's kind of the same thing as this mechanical thing that they build on Earth.
Where they basically mess with the electromagnetic fields.
Whatever.
Or open wormholes or whatever it is.
It is an energy source that whisks you across space and time. Okay? Same kind of thing there. Second thing, they don't know, the people who exist don't know who built the mass relays that get you from place to place. It is another alien race that basically the entire video game series is surrounding.
Maybe it's not so much that they saw this movie, even though based on what I know about when that game was released, it's possible. It's possible because wasn't that out in like the early aughts?
Yeah, it was like 06, 07 was the first one that came out.
And especially in those days, how long video games took to develop.
Oh, yeah.
But it's also possible they were just trying to make a really scientific, science-based video game. And because this movie is based on real science, that they just did the same thing. And it has nothing to do with the movie. It was just looking at the science.
Well, no, I'm not saying that it had anything to do with the movie. I'm just saying, hey, this is a bunch of sci-fi shit that we are borrowing for our own universe.
Trent, have I ever told you I love your deep, extensive knowledge of how you always manage to bring it back to a video game? You somehow always have either a Simpsons reference or a video game reference for whatever we're watching.
Betsy, I have to pull from the things that I know in order to interpret what I'm witnessing here. These, honestly, video games existed prior to when I was ever studying movies the way I am with these podcasts. Or, I mean, I haven't watched The Simpsons for over a decade, so I can't even really pull from anything other than the original seasons.
Science, faith, politics, video games.
Sure.
Those are the elements we're talking about here. Some other things about how this movie looks, I made sure to point out to you so you were really paying attention to that one shot when we get the flashback of her dad had a heart attack.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm going to go get medicine. And she is running down this hallway and into a mirror. And then suddenly the camera completely reverses and she's reaching to the handle and opening the cabinet door. And it completely flips the image. It is a wild shot for 1997.
That was so impressive. I'm glad that you pointed that out because I probably wouldn't have noticed it until I'm like, wait, how do they do that? That's a mirror. How?
She is running at the camera and then the camera is looking at the mirror. It doesn't make any sense when you stop and consider it.
Yeah.
But if you're not paying attention, you could easily miss that. But it's so brilliantly done. And it's one of the best things that Robert Zemeckis as a director has ever pulled off because he's got a lot of good movies. He's got a lot of bad movies. But this is maybe the most interesting as far as like curated film shots.
Sure. And I would say watching it in real time for the first time, I could tell, okay, she is doing the very over animated slow motion running. That wasn't really real. She wasn't actually running, but the way the camera frame rate is really going there, you can kind of speed it up or slow it down to meet your needs. But I would love to go back and number one, watch it again. And number two, see if there's any like extra features that we can look up that maybe would have been on a DVD or something.
About how they kind of made the movie with the special effects?
Well, even just that scene.
Well, I can tell you one person who has the answers to those questions because one of the people who helped with the special effects was Peter Jackson.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, so he had gotten help on The Frighteners from Robert Zemeckis, and this was like returning the favor, apparently.
All right.
Yeah. In 97, we did not know who Peter Jackson was. We're still 2 years before he really started going gung-ho on Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, 99 is when he basically started that entire process and did not start like shooting for a fucking year after he got the process rolling.
But let's be honest, knowing Peter Jackson and his love of the property, he was probably already working on it in 97 in his own small way.
Yeah, in his own head anyway.
When he wasn't busy figuring out how to flip mirrors in Contact with Robert Zemeckis. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Trent, I think I've covered most of the main topics I really wanted to on this episode. But what have you got that you still want to talk about as it pertains to Contact?
Only one main thing here, and it's just kind of a rhetorical question, but we can discuss. How many little girls got into science and space and just this looking up at the sky and wondering where you are in the world? How many little girls got inspired because of this movie, because of Jodie Foster?
I'm going to take it back even farther, Trent, because there's another property that you may be familiar with that I am quite well versed in about somebody who has faith and somebody who is a skeptic and somebody who is a scientist and somebody who's a believer. Some little show that premiered in 1993.
That they kind of not quite referenced in this movie. I think they said something is out there, but Betsy, what is out there?
Well, Trent, I'm talking about the X-Files.
The truth is out there.
The truth is out there. And there's literally a thing that people have noticed. There was a bump in girls entering STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. That show in 1993, when Dana Scully was a really well-known scientist, got a lot of girls to enter the field. And if you look at the stuff that came out in popular culture after this, it's the same thing. We're cashing in on the experience of people enjoying the X-Files, and now we're making more sci-fi. Now we're making more movies of powerful, strong women in this kind of a field. And you want to make it weirder, Trent? Jodie Foster was up for the role of Dana Scully. I'm almost positive that's a real thing. But I do know she was in an episode of The X-Files. Jodie Foster was on The X-Files.
Cool.
She was not, okay, let me rephrase. She's not on it, but she's in it because she does a voice. You never see her face.
Fine.
I'm just saying one kind of leads into the other. But I think you're right. It's just compacting. So Dana Scully may have kicked it off in the 90s, but then you get a movie like, Jurassic Park with Laura Dern comes out the same year. Now you've got girls who are interested in botany or, dinosaurs. Then you get movies like Contact, and now you've got girls who want to be astronauts and astronomers and things like that. And it just keeps building and building and building until now. Nobody ever really used the word STEM.
Not in the 90s.
Not in the 90s.
No, I never heard that term until I was well out of school.
It's taken this whole generation since the 90s for us to be like, yes, it's okay for girls to be scientists, and we want to encourage you to be scientists. And here's some examples in pop culture that you can go, yeah, that's me. That's who I want to be.
Kind of taking a different track away from that conversation, it is more a question of, what do you think the significance is? I think you kind of mentioned it earlier, where the Jodie Foster character, when she's up there talking to her dad out in space, the alien guy is saying, hey, just knowing that you as a species, you as a person in some cases, are not alone in the universe is maybe the most important question that you got answered on this trip. The age-old question that humanity has had for pretty much its entire existence. Are humans the only intelligent life in the galaxy, in the universe, whatever? You have the answer to that question now. But that's the big existential question. I think the movie is really good about very subtly also addressing the fact that Jodie Foster herself is alone. Her mother died in childbirth. Her dad died when she was 9. She has no boyfriend. She has no husband. She has no children. And the friends that she has are all a bunch of fucking nerds who are all into the same shit, if they're even friends outside of the lab. So them kind of exploring this part of the character is, I think, very intentional.
And the movie's also all about how you search for your own answers. The punchline of the movie at the very, very end is it's important that you keep searching for your own answers. And if that is through religion, do it through religion. If that is through science, do it through science.
Whatever it is, you can find yourself amongst like-minded people. That's really what we're talking about. And whether they are, people or aliens in some cases.
Probably people, though, because I don't think an alien's gonna come knocking on my door anytime soon to tell me that there is other life out in the universe.
Hey, Betsy, guess what? I'm Mr. Alien, and I'm here to tell you no. I like this movie quite a bit. It would be something that I would love to watch again at a much later date. I might even want to look up, some extra content, some documentaries maybe, just about even what people were talking about back in 97, because I remember the marketing of this movie. I didn't remember people talking about it. And honestly, the fact that the movie did go down the road of, hey, you got an appearance from Larry King, you got an appearance from Jay Leno, and all of the usual suspects when it comes to, hey, this movie takes place in the real world.
In the 90s.
In the 90s especially. I mean, fuck, if it was a sports movie, it would have been Bob Costas, for fuck's sake. So it does follow the formula of a movie like this in the 90s, but they try to stay away from it as much as they can. But in some cases, you have to ground it in the real reality. It can't just be all about the science, because then nobody's going to come and watch it. At least that's what the movie makers thought anyway, or at least the studio maybe.
Which is basically what I said earlier. It is a movie that I think is worth seeing, but it's a little bit harder sell than some movies of this ilk. It's not a fun, shoot 'em up alien invasion movie. It is about searching within yourself and searching outside of yourself for meaning of life, meaning of the universe. And are we alone? And are you alone? And how does that make you feel?
Yeah, and it isn't until we get a movie like Interstellar that we kind of advance the genre, at least the very, very smart sci-fi movie that has to do with science. Real science, real hard science. And I don't think that Interstellar would exist without Contact.
I am inclined to agree with you, Trent. But alas, that is a conversation for a different day, because we have to wrap up this episode about Contact. I am glad you liked it. This is why I wanted to do this one, because I knew there's a lot of elements to it that you would have thoughts on. It's not just a straightforward sci-fi film. But we would also love to hear from our listeners. What did you think of Contact? Is this too heady a sci-fi for you? Do you feel like the emotions are not earned? Is this one of your favorites? Do you love the science? What other fun nuggets behind the scenes do you know about this movie and the making of it based on Carl Sagan and his own theories?
Did you follow the path of science because you saw this movie or saw Dana Scully and the X-Files?
But yes, we would love to hear from you. Email us neverseenitpod@gmail.com. No emails today, just because we are running a little bit long in this episode. We had lots of things we wanted to talk about.
We're going to forego emails for this go around, but they're going to come back.
There's also other ways that you can reach out if you want to send your thoughts. You can find us on all social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky. Send us a message on any of those platforms. We will see them, I assure you. We'd also love if you go and rate and review the show. We haven't asked for people to do that in a hot minute, so I'm doing it today. Rate us 5 stars, tell your friends about us. All of those things help get our show in front of more people.
Specifically do it on Spotify and over on Apple Podcasts, if you please.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to hear more, you can also go to patreon.com/neverseenitpod, where we have a number of additional shows with over a year's worth. We've been doing this for over a year now, Trent. There are many, many episodes that people can listen to over there.
15 months worth of content that you can get at patreon.com/neverseenitpod.
But that is going to do it for Contact. But this is just the first episode of Sci-Fi Sunday for the month of April. So Trent, why don't you tell our listeners what we'll be doing next week?
Sci-Fi Sunday becomes Sci-Fi Sequel Sunday because we're going to cover the sequel to a movie we covered 2-3 years ago, and we really enjoyed it. We're doing Tron Legacy.
But until then, we thank you for listening. As always, my name is Betsy.
My name's Trent.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.